Congratulations for taking the next step to unlimited joy and mastery through performance wellness. Louise, thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Janice.
So tell us about yourself and how you got started with performance wellness.
Oh, what a story. What a journey it's been for me. I'll tell you, I was a jazz musician for many years, and during the 80s, it was really quite a wild time with stress in the performing arts. We didn't necessarily make a lot of money, and there was a lot of being on the road and traveling and demanding audiences. And so there was a lot of stress for me, but honestly, the thing that really made the biggest difference was while I was doing my master's degree at NYU, and we had the first international conference on stress and performing arts. And I found out the epidemic proportions of stress-related disorders amongst musicians all around the world. And not just musicians, actually, performers and educators. And at that point, I got so motivated to want to try to help performers. Because the idea that, to me, the arts are healing, right? Mm-hmm. Why is the performer suffering? And, to stretch this out further, it's not just performers that are suffering. People from all walks of life are suffering, particularly the ones that are in careers and professions where they have to give of themselves and they have to interact with audiences. For example, lawyers, doctors, mothers and their children, teachers, health professionals. So I got very, very excited about bringing a music therapy approach to helping people with stress-related disorders.
How did you develop performance wellness?
Well, I was fortunate enough to get research grants and to create a research program on stress in the performing arts at NYU in the Department of Psychology. And I ran 2 studies on my performance wellness approach that actually came together through a bunch of research on the top techniques that people had developed for treating anxiety and performance-related disorders and also depression and self-destructive behaviors. And along with my music therapy approach, I brought these different approaches together and created an integrative approach for treating people with performance-related disorders like stage fright, chronic pain, self-destructive behaviors, as I said, depression, and found that my approach actually significantly changed anxiety levels and improved performance in the people that participated in my studies.
Oh, so what kinds of people receive performance wellness?
Well, today it's obviously not just for performers. We have people, as I said, from all walks of life, teachers, lawyers, health professionals, performers, of course, and anybody who really wants to perform to their fullest. A lot of the people I deal with really have incredible levels of creativity. They're very successful in their line of work, but what happens often with high achievers is that the joy of their chosen profession is lost. And so those people often come to performance wellness to reclaim that original joy and wonder of their particular way of giving their gift in the world. And within a matter of months, they're beginning to feel good about themselves. Their work is improving. They're reaching higher levels of success in their lives. So it's really quite amazing.
What are some of the main issues that people transform through performance wellness?
Janice, underlying most of the performance-related disorders that we deal with in performance anxiety is unrelenting negative thoughts. And this is something that we have developed a special cognitive restructuring technique that actually gets to the root, to the origin of negative thoughts. And guess what? Those thoughts are not in the mind. They actually live in our cellular memory. They live in our bodies. And that's how we work on really eradicating negative thinking and beliefs in our clients. The second thing that we grapple with in performance-related disorders is the concept of the inner critic. I'm sure you know what that's like. It's literally a constellation of voices that we've internalized over the years that have judged us, criticized us, humiliated us, or even ignored us. And those voices come together and become a force to be reckoned with in the psyche. Unfortunately, it's unconscious, and we can't get to it. And so we've developed creative techniques through performance wellness to actually uproot, disarm, and master the inner critic. It's quite a remarkable and revolutionary technique. And then, one of the things we find in a lot of our high achiever clients is the idea of polarized perfectionism. You know what that's like. We've got this great talent. We want to give it to the public. But at some point in our lives, we realize that there's all this competition, right? Polarized perfectionists don't enjoy giving their gift. They are too focused on this competition and the need to always be the best. And when they're not the best, what happens? They plummet. They get depressed. They become addicts. They hurt themselves and sometimes others because of the pain that they're in around not feeling good about themselves. So we have very special creative techniques that help people with polarized perfectionism to transform that driven quality and teach them how to really enjoy the moment.
So I'm either the best or I'm nothing.
It's really sad but true.
Wow, so you're going to give us a lot of information in this short interview, and then at the end of the show, we'll tell everyone how to find more information.
That's absolutely true.
Great. So how do you teach people to transform their negative thoughts?
Well, it's actually quite a powerful tool that we use, and I'd love to share it with the audience right now. We start, it's a 4-step process, and we start basically with becoming really clear about what is the thought that's causing you pain in your life or blocking your creativity in some way. So why don't we work together?
Okay.
You seem like you are quite a high achiever, aren't you, Janice? You're past president of the Music Therapy Association, and you own your own radio program. So come on.
Okay.
Fess up.
Okay, so, all right, so I have this pain that right in the middle of my back that my chiropractor keeps needing to work on, and it recurs, and I have to go get it treated every couple of weeks.
Right.
So.
How many of you out there have that kind of thing? Yeah, of course. Okay, so Janice, I'm going to take you through the steps about this pain in the middle of your back.
Okay.
So the first step is to really bring your consciousness to that part of your back. And I'm going to ask you, when was the first time that you remember feeling that pain?
Well, the first time I felt that pain was probably after a car accident. I was rear-ended a couple of times. So.
All right.
Probably when the pain manifested.
Right. So I am going to ask you, what thought comes to mind when you bring your consciousness to that part of your body right now?
Well, it's like right in the middle of my back, and it's very sharp and focal. So I always kind of think about being stabbed in the back.
Stabbed in the back.
Yeah.
Interesting. So let me ask you this. When was there a time that you remember when you were young where you had that experience of being stabbed in the back? What comes to mind? What's your earliest memory of that?
So like a betrayal of some kind. Well, okay, this is weird, but when I was in elementary school, my best friend, we were really close, and I felt like that I needed to open myself up to her and share my thoughts and feelings. And so I had this recognition about myself, kind of an epiphany sort of thing, and a personal growth type of thing in elementary school, about 8 or 9 years old. And I told this to her, and it really was upsetting to her, and she got mad at me and never talked to me again.
Oh, Janice, that's terrible. What are you feeling in your back right now? What's going on?
It's a pretty sharp little twist.
Yeah. I can see there's a lot of emotion there. That memory is still alive in you, and it's creating pain.
That's really strange, because I hadn't thought about that incident, like, I don't know, in years.
Yes. Well, that's the cellular memory, and that's what we try to get at in this particular exercise, Janice. So I want you to just take a couple of minutes and breathe into that memory and those feelings of betrayal, and sounds like more feelings of shock, like, my goodness, I'm opening my heart, and your friend is just saying, well, I don't want to hear your heart.
I felt really guilty, like I'd done the wrong thing. Maybe I should have just kept it to myself.
That's right. So you had all these conflicting emotions: guilt, shock, sadness, betrayal. So many things going on, right? And so I want to help you to correct that emotional pain that you experienced when you were 9 or 10 years old. So I'm going to ask you to return now to your adult self, your healthy adult self. And I want you to imagine that you can talk to that 9-year-old Janice and to teach her how to manage that kind of a betrayal in her life, and to find ways of being more self-caring around these kinds of vulnerabilities in her life. So what might you say to little Janice about what she did and with her friend? You know, what might you say to comfort her and to make her understand that she didn't do anything wrong, that she was beautiful for having the courage to share this epiphany with her friend?
I'm really proud of you and impressed that you have this recognition.
Isn't that wonderful? Right. And that some people might not be able to understand your joy and your epiphany. And that doesn't make you wrong at all. It's just a matter of someone that's not ready to receive what you have to say. Right? So how could little Janice, or how could big Janice, be more careful now? But actually, before I get to that, what are you feeling in your middle back right now?
It's relaxed. I don't feel the pain. I don't feel the twisting.
Isn't that interesting? So you're beginning to release the emotional charge. Yes. Look at that deep breath. Yeah, you've been holding your breath for 30 years. Or less. I'm sorry. Less than that. And finally, you're given permission through this particular PW, Performance Wellness Technique, to release that. And then bring the intelligence from your higher self into the picture to make sure that this pain doesn't happen again. And so this is the reprogramming of the negative thought and belief that we're working on right now. So let's let's see if we can bring some intelligence into this idea of I can share my vulnerability. Okay, but what are the conditions? Let's bring intelligence into that. Let's make it safe for you to share your epiphanies and your vulnerabilities with others at this adult stage in your life.
Okay. When you say that, what came to me was I am a strong person, but it's okay to be vulnerable with safe people. And I have some safe people in my life. So it's been really hard to open up and share some things, thoughts and feelings, but I have that really strong sense that it's okay to be vulnerable to my safe people.
Wow. And you're actually doing that with me today, and it's so beautiful. And I'm so grateful that you allow yourself to trust me in that way.
It's a little scary to do that on camera, but it was good. And I mean, that tension in my back, it just never really goes away, and I don't really feel it
That's
right
incredible.
now.
Well, I'll have to tell your chiropractor what the secret is to middle back pain, right?
Right.
All right, so let's finish this up with a new thought and belief related to this particular negative thought or negative or place of pain in your body.
Okay.
What would that be in your own words?
That it's okay to be vulnerable with safe people, and that I know the difference.
Oh, that's really profound. I've got tears in my eyes now. Thank you so much, Janice. That really, really shows the value of this kind of technique for transforming those deeply rooted negative thoughts and bodily issues.
Wow, I didn't really expect that we'd go there today, but thank you for the release of that pain that I've always had. So the cognitive restructuring steps are to identify pain
Or negative thought.
or negative thought,
belief.
and then identify the first time that you've had that thought or belief. Bring it into
What are the feelings associated with it?
okay.
And to really talk about that experience. And then bring your higher self, your higher consciousness, to act as a supporter or a healer of that younger part of you that has not yet grown up. It's sort of stuck in there. And then finally, reprogramming the thought or feeling or belief and coming up with a new adaptive thought and belief.
That feels a lot more permanent than just noticing the belief and then changing the belief.
It sure
The
is.
thought.
Honestly, clients have reported that pains and illnesses and stuck places in their lives have changed instantly, forever. I had a guy actually come to me with low back pain. He had gone to so many doctors for so many years, and he just suffered and suffered and suffered. And with one session in one workshop, that lower back pain went away permanently.
Wow.
So it really, really, really works, Janice.
Fantastic. It's wonderful. That feels really good. Okay, so how do you disarm and master your inner critic?
Oh, that gets to be a little bit more fun, I think, than the experience we just went through. Although it's even deeper than just dealing with a negative thought. The inner critic is really, like I said, a constellation of voices and experiences in our lives. And so the way we capture that in performance wellness is we actually have our client draw their perception of the inner critic.
Gets it outside of you.
Gets it out of the unconscious and directly onto the page, where they can look at it and have a little bit of distance from that inner critic. So that's the first step, and usually that's really mind-blowing for the client because they'll see, Mrs. Smith from the 3rd grade who hit them with a ruler every day when they were chewing gum, or other kinds of horrible, humiliating situations in their lives, and it's all there on paper. And they begin to have insights when you look at it. You begin to start to have understanding about who these critics were in your life and how distorted they were.
Mm-hmm.
What we do often as children is we give our power away to authority figures. We think that they know it all.
Right.
But in reality, they might be sicker than anyone, because who would treat a child like that?
Right.
Who would humiliate a child? But children always feel like it's their fault. And so getting it out on paper and seeing it from an adult perspective, they realize how wrong these critics were in their lives. And sometimes they even realize that they're their own worst critic. Mm-hmm. And that often happens in our lives when we didn't get enough feedback. Nobody noticed us. So then we develop our own super ego that attacks ourselves.
Well, I don't have any problems with that, but let's say I did. How would I fix that after I draw the picture?
So after you draw it, then we bring in a very, very unique activity in performance wellness, which involves musical improvisation. And you do not have to be a musician to do these performance wellness techniques. So we have them actually play the energy of the inner critic on any kind of an improvisational instrument that they'd like to choose.
So a drum.
A rain stick, a horn. They can also use their voices, a xylophone, anything that will hold the intensity of that inner critic. Because when we've been traumatized, like we are with criticism, that often is an energy that gets locked in the body. And so through externalizing this, through music, we're actually purging the body-mind of this really unfathomable, undescribable emotion that has been lurking in us for so many years. And once we realize the energy of this inner critic through music, then the next step is to actually have a dialogue, a musical dialogue with the inner critic, with the goal of taking back your power. Because think about it, that inner critic is you. It's no longer Mrs. Smith or John Doe over there.
Right.
It's you. Those people have come and gone.
Right.
So you need to reclaim that lost power within you so that you can then go back to the world with a lot more energy and a lot more trust in yourself and a lot more creativity. And that's how it works. And again, it's instant. Most of my clients who have been through the performance wellness approach tell me that after that one session of dealing with the inner critic, they go up on stage. It's effortless for them to give a speech. It's effortless for them to deal with large groups of people in workshops or to act on stage. They don't need to take their beta blockers anymore.
And make that big presentation at work.
It's absolutely effective.
And that non-verbal dialogue, because who even remembers what the words are, but the emotion
It just weighs us down, and it prevents us from breathing even.
Oh, yeah.
And if you can't breathe, and if you can't smile, do you ever see people giving lectures and they're like deadpan for a half an hour? Because they're holding their breath. They're trying to push down those negative voices of that inner critic. And our clients do not have to do that anymore. And as I said many times in this presentation, the joy returns. And life becomes much more fun.
That does sound fun.
Yeah.
So now I want to know, how do you overcome polarized perfectionism?
Okay, that was one of my issues, actually. I was a performer since I was a little kid, and I was always expected to take care of people, make them happy, entertain.
That's cool.
And I found myself as an adult always feeling that kind of pressure to entertain. Even as a research scientist, even as a workshop leader. And so I really had to work on understanding, why am I like that? And it really does come from early in our lives. And so many of you that come to performance wellness were gifted as children. And we missed out on those early developmental stages of just being a goofball, being silly, failing, and being loved, even though you fail. You know, for us, we had to work harder than others. We were expected to excel all the time. So how we treat people with polarized perfectionism is really, first of all, to name it. Because most people don't know what it is. They don't know, why am I so compulsive? Why do I hurt myself? Why can't I relax? Why do I have insomnia? Why do I keep sabotaging myself? These are all symptoms of polarized perfectionism. So when we give it a name, that's the first step in really healing this particular complex. And the thing that's most effective in really healing this, and it takes a while, is the idea of becoming mindful. The idea of being able to live in this moment, not thinking about what am I doing next, but I'm here now. Let me breathe in that moment. Let me feel the incredible potentialities that are alive in this one moment. And guess what? There's a lot of joy in that moment. And I've been missing out on that joy because I've been thinking 10 years down the line.
You're ahead
all
or
the
behind.
many things that I have to do, or the failures that I had in the past.
Yeah.
Right? And so we do that through several different techniques. One of them that you might try yourself is the idea of, can you spend a half an hour this week just being? And really consciously, maybe you go out to your garden and you let yourself sit there on the lounge chair and just observe the beautiful plants and the flowers in your garden. Feel the sun as it beats down upon you, gentle breeze of the wind. Feel your body. How does your body feel sitting on this chair, this lounge chair? Can you let your body really sink in to that feeling of relaxation? And this is really, really foreign for many of our clients.
Yeah, because even just imagining that, I'm thinking, well, what do I do about the weeds that I notice?
You just notice them and you say, what's next? It's really very much like a meditative process. It's mindfulness. It's not trying to fix anything or do anything. It's becoming the observer and enjoying that role of being the observer and experiencing life as if you were experiencing it for the first time.
So not doing,
Yeah, absolutely.
just being.
Just being. And over time, as you integrate more and more of those being moments in your life, polarized perfectionism starts to change into a sense of joyful mastery. And that's what life is really all about, isn't it?
So, what would happen if we didn't have performance wellness?
I think there'd be a lot of unhappy high achievers out there in the world. And of course you don't have to be a high achiever, but people that know they're special and know they're gifted and know that they're meant to share those gifts with the world. Those gifts won't get out there. And that would break my heart, because this has been quite a journey for me to get to this level, being able to offer my gifts to the public. And I want to see all of you being able to get to that place where you're joyfully living each day, sharing your heart and soul with others and making a difference in the world. And the world really needs that right now. Don't you agree?
Well, I just can't imagine. What would it be like if there were 10 people in the world that in my community that were less stressed? I mean, and more joyful.
Well, let's make that happen.
Let's make that happen. So I hope this doesn't embarrass you, Louise, but I got an email from one of your clients who talking about your work with them. So I'm going to read that. A few months ago, I went to a 4-day workshop on performance wellness. This field was developed by wonderful practitioner Louise Montello in her work with musicians with performance anxiety. It was a really intimate group of 14 people, and I was the only one who didn't know the rest of the group and felt like an outsider at the start. I have difficulty trusting that people will really be there for me. The workshop was highly experiential, and so with already feeling like an outsider and with my trust issues, I was feeling very afraid about taking risks and opening up. I volunteered to work one-on-one with Louise in front of the group on something that is deeply painful and personal for me. Afterwards, I received such immense support and love from the group that it was completely transformative for me. I had never felt this before, such intensely loving holding from people I didn't know well. I carried the feeling away with me and put the group photo we took up as my desktop wallpaper on my computer at work. That experience really challenged my prior framework about how much people can be trusted and caused me to accommodate by adjusting my thinking. I find myself now approaching people in situations with a still shaky awareness that I could have that positive experience again. Several weeks after that, a woman I had met once and liked asked me to join her at a kirtan event. I didn't know what this was. It's a call and response chanting practiced in some Indian devotional traditions, but I accepted it anyway. I had in mind that it would be a concert and hadn't understood that it was at all participatory. One of my most significant current practices in coming into adult voice is working on my physical voice through singing. I have built psychological barriers to singing freely and have been addressing this for several years. When I discovered that the kirtan essentially represented an invitation to sing in public, I felt myself become incredibly anxious, and all my psychological protections around the word singing out slammed into place. But that prior experience in Louise's workshop had really changed me. I felt myself loved and supported by the group, a room full of strangers. I trusted that they were not there to judge anyone, but to enjoy the community and connection of this wonderful tradition, and timidly I began to sing. Well, I sang for 2 hours with great joy and more freedom in my voice than I have often experienced. I couldn't stop. I bought the CDs. I sang in my car. In fact, I sang along to one of them last night. This for me is an example of assimilation where the kirtan experience reinforced my newly formed belief that conscious people coming together as community can be trusted to show up from a place of love and support. Do you remember this person?
I do. Boy, did she work hard in that workshop. And you know, it really pays off when you take that risk to look at some of the dark areas of our inner selves. With performance wellness, there's no way but up. There's no way but into the light.
So Louise, you've given us 3 techniques and lots of information. And you've developed a program to offer us more.
Yeah, indeed.
So why is your program unique?
Well, you know, I was fortunate enough to study with the leading innovators in performance studies, in cognitive neuroscience, in yoga science, and also depth psychology. And I've been lucky enough to put together these concepts and techniques along with my very special offering, which is essential musical intelligence. It's our innate ability to use music and sound as self-reflecting transformational tools in really balancing and harmonizing mind, body, and spirit. And so the program really starts with the body, moves into the mind, moves then into the level of emotion, and then into our relationships with people. So we really cover all the bases that allow our clients to totally perform to their fullest and reignite the joy and passion that maybe was lost in their lives.
Great. So if you want to take what you've learned here further, just scroll down and there's more information.